Well, hey everyone, my name's Nate. I'm one of the pastors here at Emergence, and we've had these devotionals going out every morning during the season of Lent, and it's allowed us to, in the midst of the craziness of life, to hit pause, take a breath, and reflect on the story and person of Jesus. So let's do that. We're at the beginning of what is traditionally called Holy Week, and if you're not familiar with that term, Holy Week is the remembrance of Jesus' last week here on earth. Yesterday was Palm Sunday, and so just for a little bit of context, at a glance, here's this unpolished prophet from Galilee, which is interesting because people from Galilee were kind of like the hillbillies of the day. They would have had a starkly different accent and look different, and he's arriving on a donkey, not a majestic horse, and he's got this ragtag group of disciples. Picture kind of like a Beverly Hillbillies type situation. Also, his reputation has very much preceded him at this point. Jesus' popularity has gone viral. I don't know if it's okay to say that anymore, but it's true. People have heard of his teachings and his miracles. And in fact, just a couple days prior to this, he raised Lazarus from the dead in the same community. So Lazarus was probably there. That's crazy. And now people have come from all over to offer a sacrifice at the temple during the Passover holiday. These folks that have lived under Roman rule are floored at the reality that the promised Messiah is finally here. He's going to free them. So they throw this welcome celebration with palm branches and cheers of Hosanna, just an incredible scene. So things are looking up if you're a Jew. And then we take a look at Mark's account in chapter 11, and we see things start to shift. This is while Jesus is still on the donkey making his way into town. It says this, "And he entered Jerusalem and went into the temple. And when he had looked around at everything, as it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. So again, this is during the Passover. So Jews from all over would have made their way to the temple in Jerusalem to offer an atonement sacrifice. This place would have been packed. But many people wouldn't have been able to bring an animal sacrifice with them because of how far the journey was. If that was the case, they probably would have purchased one as they arrived in Jerusalem. Nothing wrong with that. And for the merchants, this was like modern day Black Friday. They're expecting this influx of people and they're prepared to do quite a bit of business over the next couple days. Again, nothing wrong with that. However, what was an issue was the fact that the merchants were dealing within the temple walls. Not cool. Okay, why is that not cool though? Well, Jesus makes it clear for us in the verses to follow in verses 15 to 17. And so this takes place on the next day, on Monday. It says this, "And they came to Jerusalem, and he entered the temple and began to drive out those who sold and who bought in the temple. And he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold pigeons. And he would not allow anyone to carry anything through the temple. And he was teaching them, saying to them, Is it not written that my house will be called a house of prayer for all the nations? But you have made it a den of robbers." All right, so what's happening here? What's interesting is where in the temple this is happening. It's happening in a place that's called the Court of the Gentiles. It's the outermost area of the temple where people of all nations were allowed. So as Jesus is quoting Jeremiah saying, "My house will be called a house of prayer for all the nations," he's saying this area is exclusively reserved for that exact purpose, for all people to worship. On top of that, the temple is supposed to be holy. Whatever you have going on, your commerce, your frustrations, your tasks, anything, you put that down. And this place is exclusively devoted to communion and praise to the Lord. So Jesus is livid. He drives out the merchants and, they're expecting a good day of business. He angers the Sadducees. And in verse 18, it says the whole crowd was astonished by his teaching. Everyone's jaws just hit the floor. So in less than 24 hours, we've gone from this scene of great celebration and praise to a general what the heck kind of vibe in Jerusalem. And up until this point, Jesus was at most a frustration to those in power. But this was the first real blatant offense against Jewish leadership. And we'll see how that develops in the coming days. But what's the takeaway from this? And I guess comment below with what jumped out to you from the passage. But for me, as we're taking this final week of Lent and focusing in on Jesus as we prep our hearts for Easter, I appreciate the boldness of Jesus. He visited the temple the night that he rode into town. He likely saw what was happening there that evening. He returned to where he was staying that night, and then he was not only convinced of the what was happening was wrong, but he fully knew that his actions were eventually going to lead him to the cross. But he boldly stood up to the powers that be. He sacrificed his elevated reputation, and as always, he glorified the Father with his actions. That's a leader. That's a perfect leader. Jesus is amazing. My prayer for us today is that we would be inspired by the boldness of Jesus and in his faithfulness, even as it required a personal sacrifice. So I'm praying for that for all of us for today. Have a great Monday, everyone.